5 first responders in Ohio walked away from their jobs, not because of the pay, not because of the hours, because of nights they couldn't shake, calls that didn't sit right, moments that stayed with them longer than they should have. They don't claim to know what happened, they're not sure themselves, but they remember. Tonight, 5 former Ohio first responders share what they experienced. These are their words, their memories, their questions. Make of them what you will. We brought in a patient. I held her hand, she told me her name. 3 hours later, no one could confirm she'd ever been there. This story comes from a former EMT named Rachel, 34 years old, 7 years with a county EMS in Columbus, left in 2022, November 2021. Rachel and her partner responded to a call. Woman collapsed outside a downtown apartment building, mid-30s, professional clothes, unconscious but breathing. Witnesses said she just dropped. No warning, no seizure, just fell. Rachel and Mike stabilized her, loaded her into the ambulance, standard protocol. The woman woke up halfway to the hospital, confused, disoriented, but coherent enough to answer questions. Rachel asked her name. The woman said Sarah, asked for her last name. The woman went silent, like she couldn't remember. They arrived at Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, handed her off to the ER team. Rachel filled out the paperwork. Everything normal. 3 hours later, Rachel got a call from the hospital. "We need to talk about your patient." Rachel drove back, met with the charge nurse and a hospital administrator. They told her there was no record of Sarah being admitted, no intake form, no bed assignment, no chart. Rachel showed them her paperwork, the run sheet, the vitals she'd recorded, the signature from the nurse who'd taken the handoff. The administrator glanced at the paperwork. "I don't know what to tell you. No one remembers this patient. No one can confirm who took the handoff." Rachel went back to the apartment building the next day, asked about the woman who collapsed. The doorman wasn't sure. Maybe someone had been outside that night, maybe not. He couldn't say for certain. Rachel checked the dispatch logs. The call existed, but the details were different than she remembered. Small things. The time was off by 20 minutes. The address was listed differently. She started to wonder if she'd mixed something up, if the long shifts were getting to her, if she'd somehow confused 2 calls. But she remembered Sarah's hand in hers. She remembered the woman's voice. She remembered the name. Rachel left 4 months later. She told me, "I'm not saying anything strange happened. I'm not saying it didn't. I just know that night doesn't add up in my head." She paused, and I got tired of trying to make it add up. She works in a clinic now, regular hours. She says she doesn't think about it much anymore, most days. We cleared the house. No one inside, but I heard something on the way out. I still don't know what it was. This story comes from a former firefighter named Marcus, 41 years old, 12 years with a county fire department in rural Ohio, left in 2021, October 2020. Marcus and his crew responded to a structure fire, an abandoned farmhouse about 15 miles outside of town. No one had lived there in years. By the time they arrived, the fire was mostly contained to the back of the house. They did a sweep, standard procedure, making sure no squatters, no kids, no one trapped inside. The house was empty. Old furniture, dust, the smell of smoke and rot. Marcus was the last one out. Walking through the front room toward the door, that's when he heard it. A voice. Coming from somewhere deeper in the house. Behind him. He couldn't make out words. Just the tone. Like someone talking. Calm. Conversational. Marcus stopped. Turned around. Nothing. Just the crackle of the fire in the back rooms. Just smoke drifting through broken windows. He called out, "Anyone in here?" Silence. He stood there for maybe 10 seconds, listening. The voice didn't come again. Marcus walked out, reported what he'd heard. 2 other guys went back in. Did another sweep. No one. Nothing. Later, one of the older guys on the crew said the house had an old radio in the back bedroom. Maybe it had turned on somehow. Heat, electrical surge, something. Marcus went back the next week. After the fire was out, he found the radio. It looked like it hadn't been used in a long time. He stood there looking at it for a while. He told me, "I'm not saying it was anything. Houses make sounds, fires do strange things. I've been in 100 burning buildings." He paused. "I don't remember anyone being able to explain it. And I stopped trying to." He shrugged. "Maybe it was nothing. But I still think about it sometimes, that voice, how calm it sounded." He left the department a year later. Different reasons, he says. The schedule, the wear on his body. But he mentioned that house twice during our conversation, without me asking. I responded to a call on Route 33. I still don't know what I heard that night, but I know I didn't want to get out of the car. This story was shared by a former Ohio State Highway Patrol trooper named Kevin, 38 years old, 12 years on the job before he resigned in 2021. Kevin loved the work. Night shifts were his favorite. Empty highways, the hum of the engine, the quiet of rural Ohio at 3 a.m., October 2020. Kevin got a call. Abandoned vehicle on Route 33 between Logan and Athens. Caller said the car was in the middle of the road. Doors open, engine running, no one around. Standard call. Kevin had handled dozens like it. He arrived around 2:45 a.m. The car was there. A silver Honda. Doors open, headlights on, engine running. Just like dispatch said. Kevin pulled up behind it, left his cruiser running, reached for the door handle, and stopped. Something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it. The air seemed different, heavy. The silence was too complete. No crickets, no wind, nothing. Kevin sat in his cruiser for a long moment, hand on the door. He didn't want to get out, not couldn't, not was afraid to, just didn't want to. A feeling in his gut that said stay in the car. He called it in, requested backup, said he wanted another unit before approaching the vehicle. While he waited, he watched the cornfield beside the road. The corn was tall, August tall, dark against the darker sky. He thought he heard something, movement, not wind, something pushing through the stalks, but he couldn't see anything. Backup arrived 12 minutes later. 2 troopers. They approached the vehicle together. Empty, no driver, no passengers, no signs of anything unusual. They ran the plates. The car belonged to a woman in Columbus. When they contacted her, she said the car had been parked in her driveway all night. She was confused. Everything matched what dispatch had given them. But according to the owner, her car had never left Columbus. They towed the vehicle, filed a report. The next morning, Kevin checked the system. The report was there, but the details had been changed. Abandoned vehicle. Owner notified. No incident. Nothing about the confusion with the owner. Nothing about the woman in Columbus. Kevin asked his sergeant about it. His sergeant said he didn't know what Kevin was talking about, said the report looked normal. Kevin let it go. He quit 6 months later. He told me, "I'm not saying something was out there. I don't know what was out there. Maybe nothing." He paused. "But I couldn't explain why I didn't want to step out of that car. I've done 1,000 traffic stops. Never felt like that before." He shook his head. "I still think about that cornfield. The sound I thought I heard. The feeling I couldn't shake." Another pause. "Some nights just stay with you. That one stayed with me." He works private security now. Daytime shifts. He says it's better for his sleep. We were searching for a missing kid. I saw something in that field, I think. I'm still not sure. This story comes from a former county sheriff's deputy named James. 46 years old, 18 years in law enforcement, left in 2020, August 2019. James was part of a search team looking for a missing teenager, a 16-year-old boy who'd walked away from his family's farm and hadn't come back. Standard search, dogs, volunteers, grid pattern through the fields and woods. On the third day, James was walking through a cornfield about 2 miles from the farmhouse, alone. The corn was tall, over 7 feet. You couldn't see anything but stalks and sky. He smelled something, sweet, off, like fruit that had turned. He followed the smell. In the center of the field, he found a spot where the corn was different. Not a clearing exactly, just a place where the stalks seemed thinner, shorter, like something had affected the growth. James stood there for a moment. Looking around, he thought he saw something. On the ground, a shape, dark against the dirt. He stepped closer, and then he wasn't sure what he was looking at. The light was strange. The corn was casting shadows. His eyes were tired from 3 days of searching. He blinked, looked again. Just dirt, just shadows, nothing there. James stood there for a long moment, trying to make sense of what he'd seen, or thought he'd seen. He called it in, said he'd found something, wasn't sure what. By the time another deputy arrived, there was nothing to show him, just a patch of shorter corn, just dirt. The missing boy was found the next day, alive, walking on a road 10 miles from his house. He couldn't remember the 3 days he'd been gone. Doctors said stress, dehydration, disorientation. The boy recovered, went back to school, normal life. James thought about that spot in the cornfield sometimes, what he'd seen, what he'd thought he'd seen. He told me, "I was exhausted. 3 days of searching. Bad sleep. Bad food. Your eyes played tricks on you." He paused. "I probably saw a shadow, a trick of the light. My brain trying to make sense of nothing." Another pause. "But I still remember how I felt standing there. Like I'd stepped somewhere I didn't understand." He shrugged. "I left the department a year later. Different reasons, but that day stuck with me. He doesn't search cornfields anymore. He says he doesn't miss it." There's an intersection I stopped driving through. There was no reason for it. And that was the problem. This story comes from a former ambulance driver named Tom, 52 years old, 23 years with a county EMS, retired in 2022. Tom had driven every road in the county, thousands of calls, day shifts, night shifts, every kind of weather. There was one intersection he started avoiding, Route 7 and County Road 12, rural, nothing special, just a crossroads in the middle of farmland. He couldn't explain why. It started in 2019. Tom was driving back from a call, late night. Around 2 a.m., he approached the intersection and felt something. Not fear exactly, just a reluctance, a feeling that he didn't want to drive through. He took a different route, added 10 minutes to his drive, didn't think much of it. But it kept happening. Every time he approached that intersection at night, the same feeling, the same reluctance, the same urge to turn around. One night he decided to stop, to see if there was anything there, any reason for the feeling. He pulled over, got out, stood at the edge of the intersection. Nothing. Empty fields, empty road, stars overhead, the sound of wind in the corn. He stood there for 5 minutes, waiting, listening. There was no reason for it, and that was the problem. His radio crackled once, static, then silence. Tom got back in the ambulance, drove away. He told me, "I've been doing this job for over 20 years. I've seen accidents, deaths, things that should give you nightmares." He paused. "That intersection never gave me nightmares. Nothing happened there, not once." Another pause. "But I stopped driving through it. I don't know why. I just stopped." He shrugged. "Some places feel wrong. You can't explain it. You can't prove it. It's just a feeling." He looked at me. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was nothing, probably was nothing. He paused one last time. "But I still took the long way, every time, for 3 years. Nothing happened. That's what bothered me." Tom retired last year, says he doesn't miss the night shifts. He never drove through that intersection again. He doesn't know why. He stopped trying to figure it out.